everybody, welcome back to episode 94 on this Tuesday night. I almost said Thursday, but it's not. It's Tuesday.
Thursday, one of those days.
Yeah, it's Sunday. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Not much has happened since we talked on Saturday. Just working and, getting some stuff done around the house. But today, we just wanted to talk a little bit about a special day.
Which is actually tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
But that's okay. It's today in the UK.
That's true.
I think, if I can do the time change correctly.
That's true. But tomorrow will be the Trans Day of Visibility for Allies in 2021.
Right. Which is, I don't know when it actually began, but it's an annual celebration of transgender people. And obviously, as the name implies, it's about being, visible and not being, not living in the shadows, kind of, you know what I mean?
For those of you who don't know, who haven't seen some of our earlier episodes, our oldest daughter, Emma, is transgender, and so being a part of this, or even just, we watched a little video tonight of celebrities talking about being allies of the trans community and what that means. And, and I thought one person who spoke was like, the first allies you should have is your parents, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately for a lot of kids and adults, they don't have that, which is unfortunate. We never once batted an eye when our daughter came out as transgender. It was just like, okay, this is awesome, amazing, we're so proud of you and everything. But you kind of like live in a bubble, kind of thinking like how you don't really realize how much that community suffers, what they actually do. So
well, and I mean, obviously it's personal to us because of our daughter, and also our daughter's partner Ripley. So we want to shout out. I'm not cool enough to use the lingo, the shout out.
We can say shout out.
Okay, but we want to acknowledge Emma and Ripley, and obviously give them our support. But it's also in our country right now, there's been a lot of, the trans community is kind of like the favorite political target, and I think it's almost exclusively people who are acting in bad faith, who are just looking for a vulnerable group of people to kick around, frankly. Mm-hmm. I always say, well, we don't want to be political, but I'm going to be political in one sense, because there are all these laws, being passed or being threatened to pass in a variety of states. Both Dakotas had bills pending that would restrict trans rights. Arkansas passed a particularly cruel bill, I think, yesterday, because it's not, it's bad enough that it targets the trans community, but it actually it would deny, fundamental health care to trans people, particularly youth. It interferes with the decisions that doctors and parents and transgender people make, and it's really inexcusable. And none of this, I'm just going to be blunt and say it because I think it's true. None of this has anything to do with religion. None of it has anything to do with morality. None of it has anything to do with, protecting kids from bad decisions. It doesn't have anything to do with protecting women's sports or girls' sports. This is a political issue because some people in our country thrive on division. Some people in our country believe that the path to political success and power is to marginalize other people and sow divisions and spread fear, and that's what this is. That's all it is. The trans community is the least threatening community in America or in the world, and all these laws that are out there that are designed to restrict, whether it's bathrooms or healthcare or sports, it has nothing to do with the substantive issues involving any of those things. It's all about finding a vulnerable group of people and pointing at them and saying, they're different, they're a threat, they're bad, we have to demonize them. And, we're all cynical about politicians in our own ways. This is something that you should really be cynical about.
Definitely.
Now, let's just take the sports issue as one thing, because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I've always been kind of a sports fan. The theory is that there are all these laws out there that are designed to protect women's sports and girls' sports, because the fear is that transgender athletes will, flood women's sports and dominate women's sports and all this. And of course, never mind the fact that there's actually no statistical evidence to bear that out. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. You're talking about a very statistically small percentage of the population. And there are a host of other reasons why it's a non-issue. But the fact remains that all of these people pushing these laws to supposedly protect women's sports and girls' sports pay zero attention to women's sports and girls' sports.
Oh, true.
Day
I
in,
didn't even
day
think about
out.
that. Yeah.
They don't care whether WNBA players, are making the same money or have the same opportunity as NBA players. They don't care about women's and girls' hockey leagues. They don't care about, women in track and field. They don't care about, how badly the U.S. women's soccer team is treated, even though they're the only American soccer team that can win anything. All of a sudden, there's this fake concern for women's and girls' sports that, none of these people paid any attention to until now. And there are all kinds of successful women athletes who strongly support the rights of trans athletes.
Definitely.
Obviously, one of the most visible today would be Megan Rapinoe or Rapinoe. I never know how to pronounce her name.
I know, I don't either.
And I apologize for that, but the very successful woman soccer player who's, really a strong supporter of the rights of trans people. But anyway, I don't want to get off on too much of a rant, although I did. And I don't take
It's
any
valid.
and I don't take any of it back. But get back to me when any of these politicians give a damn about women's sports in any other context.
Right.
It's the same thing with all this hysteria over bathrooms in the past. Now there are all these, people pushing lies about healthcare for trans youth. And again, I know it'll probably aggravate people because I'm being blunter than I normally am. But this is...
It's personal.
it's personal, but and I just want to say, it shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't have to take someone in your family, men will say this sort of thing all the time when they get concerned about, violence towards women, because they'll say, well, I have a mother, I have a sister. Well, you should care regardless of your personal connection. You should care because people are people and they don't deserve to be treated badly.
Right.
But it is personal for us. And it isn't just because of our daughter. There are other, trans and non-binary people in our family, and we've known trans and non-binary people throughout our lives. And so, maybe we're fortunate enough to have had more connections to this issue. But, when it comes, if you come from my family, if you come for someone in my family, or friends or people that I care about, you better believe I'm going to fight back.
Heck yeah.
And I don't want to belabor the point necessarily, but people will say genuinely vile things about about any marginalized community, but these days especially about the trans community. I've had horrible things directed to me because I've been pretty open about our daughter and my support. I won't go into it because I'm not going to give the trolls, the airtime, so to speak.
Right.
But just, believe me when I tell you that there's just some genuinely toxic, vile people out there who are targeting this community. And even if you don't fully understand the issues, don't ally yourself with those people.
Yeah, and one of the things we saw, a YouTube show tonight while we're watching dinner. Sarah
O'Connor.
O'Connell in the UK, and so she had all these celebrities on. And one of the things they said, if you're an ally for somebody in the transgender community, you can't do nothing, kind of thing.
Right.
You have to help them, and one person said stand in front of them, which I thought was a good thing, is like kind of protect them and like
Right.
stand in front of them. So.
Right, and I have to say, so I was not familiar with Sarah O'Connell. She's a trans woman in the UK who's, I guess, fairly well known there. She has a podcast, and we were watching this. It's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We'll tag her in this, and you can check it out on her Instagram page and her YouTube page. But it's an hour and a half show featuring all kinds of different celebrities. Ben Stiller is the first person who chips in, and there our friend Liz Winstead, who we adore, has a prominent part in it. Colin Mockery, who's a pretty well-known comedian. Lou Diamond Phillips, the guy I'm blanking on his name. The guy from Imagine Dragons.
Yes.
I just saw Dan Reynolds, and this has been an issue they've been way out in front of for a long time. David Arquette,
Roseanne
Arquette, Shannon Watts, Steve Guttenberg, the actor, who used to be, I was going to say used to be very famous. I don't want to be mean, but he was in Diner, and he was in the Police Academy movies and a whole
Three
bunch
Men and a Baby.
3 Men and a Baby. I'm just kind of scanning through. A lot of the people who were on this show are British. Boy George was on there. A lot of them are British celebrities who I'm not as familiar with. Neil Gaiman, the author, novelist, who's pretty well known. Anyway, it was good to see, and I have to say one thing that I thought was refreshing is it was nice to see a number of people in the UK participating in this, not surprisingly, since Sarah O'Connell's from the UK. And you don't want to make generalizations about another country, particularly, I haven't really ever spent any time there.
No.
But sometimes in the United States, we get the impression that there's a lot of animosity towards trans people in the UK, and it wouldn't be fair to say that it's any worse there than it is here, but sometimes the UK gets some negative press on this.
Which I didn't really
score.
know to the extent of people that are just, there's violence against them just for
sure.
walking down the street, kind of thing, just
Right.
trying to be themselves. And also, there was another person on there who is an ally for not only helping children who are transgender, but young adults transitioning from trying to just deal with life in general and trying to get a job, and how do you explain if you took time off to figure out your life, how do you get back on, and not have it seen negatively against you, kind of thing. There's just lots of things.
One thing we have to point out is Robert Irvine is the celebrity chef / very loud person who yells at people.
I did see him on there.
He's one of them too, and that's kind of cool because not only is he British, he's a veteran. He was in the Royal Navy and stuff like that. Comes across as kind of a hard-edged person, although I don't think that's
probably.
true. He's probably a lovely person in real life.
Yeah.
But it's good to see, it's good to see straight people. It's good to see, cisgender. I know people get upset about that word. They think that it's offensive. I'm not cisgender. I'm just a man, or I'm just a woman. All it means is, that you identify with, the sex you were born with.
Right.
It's not an offensive term. It's just a way of explaining these things. But it's good to see a lot of people, and people from different walks of life. You wouldn't necessarily, because they don't get all that involved in politics, like Steve Guttenberg or Lou Diamond Phillips.
Right.
I've known about them and their careers for 100 years. I wouldn't have known one way or the other. I knew David Arquette because he's spoken out on that issue before. But Robert Irvine. I know where Liz Winstead stands because she's someone we know and admire and have followed for a long time.
Definitely.
But it's good to see people, speak up. And I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, and this is going to
there.
go a little bit off on a rant, or a little bit off.
Rant away.
Not a rant, but a
No, I
little
think you
bit
should
like
rant.
away from there is one of the things that I don't know if we have any people that watch us that have young children, but I find this a lot in recent years, where the biggest there's a big celebration for the gender reveal when women
we've
are
talked about
pregnant,
this before.
and you just it is exciting, especially you want to know, do I have a boy or a girl, but to like put all of your energy into what
Right.
they are, and especially like one thing that just when I see like boy mom, or something like that, and everything is like the shirts, the boy,
Right.
or it could go for girls too, but especially that if you put so much emphasis on, I'm so happy I have a boy, I'm so happy, here, you never know what's going to happen down the line, and it could hinder that person
Right.
from being who they want to be because they think they're going to disappoint their parents because all they've talked about is like, I'm so happy I have a boy, I'm so happy I have a girl, and it's like, you're not, what are they going to do, kind of thing. So I always think just not just kind of have it like gender neutral as much as possible.
Be low key about it. Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And I do think, we have, there's some vantage point that you gain, I think, just through age and experience. But, I think we maybe realize or have come to see life is just way more complicated. And anytime you try to reduce things to real simple binary terms, a lot of times you're just grossly oversimplifying the reality.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, well, there's right and wrong. Sure, obviously, murder is wrong. There's certain things that are pretty straightforward and apparent, but we get so wrapped up in these sort of binary ways of thinking. This is totally off the subject, but you'll see this all the time where somebody, and usually it's just more for amusement's sake or whatever, but someone will come along and say, in that famous movie or that book that everybody read, they had it all wrong. The good guys are really the bad guys, and the bad guys are really the good guys. Like you see this with Star Wars all the time. People will say, what if it turns out the rebels were the bad guys and the Empire, they were the good guys. Or another one was The Office. People disliked Jim and Pam, so they decided that Dwight Schrute was really the hero and Jim and Pam were the villains. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be black and white, either or, a binary choice. Like you can say, well, Jim was kind of a jerk in a lot of ways, but Dwight was basically a fascist. So, just because it turns out Jim's not as good as you thought he was, that doesn't mean Dwight, you know what I mean? All I'm saying is we got to break out of that kind of binary thinking that everything has always got to be A or B, plus or minus, 0 or 1. It's not that simple generally. And, that really is hard for people to accept, but for some people to accept. For some people, it's really easy to accept, and that's great. And I think for younger people, it's they're kind of being raised in a world where they're not locked into really rigid ideas. But you gotta just let people be people, and you gotta just step back and challenge your own assumptions. I think that's
and just like educate yourself just about like that whole community, and they're just regular people and they're just trying to live their lives and be true to who they are.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
I do like on I do frequent TikTok now. I know I'm too old for that.
Do you do TikTok now?
No, no. But I just like watch some TikToks. But there's there's a community of younger people who do not have parental support trying to navigate this, and I always will comment and just say, I'm proud of you, you're amazing.
Well, and that's one thing, if there's anything to kind of close on or wrap it up on, is like, if you have kids, you know, you may think that you're a hero for, you know, well, I love my kids, okay, but if you that's not the standard, right? I mean, everybody loves their kids. It's easy to love your kids. That's the most natural thing in the world when your children are born and you say, oh, wow, this is great. I love my kid. Being a parent is much more than just loving your kids. And one thing it is like supporting your kids and accepting your kids and absolutely backing them up at every turn. And if you have a child who doesn't sort of fit your rigid binary view of the world and you reject that child, or frankly do anything other than wholeheartedly embracing that child, you're not doing a good job. I'm just going to be blunt. You're not.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as I say, it's not just because we have a trans kid that it matters to us, because it should matter regardless. But the fact is that your job as a parent, if you are a parent, is, you know, you don't ever walk away from your kid or reject them.
Definitely.
That's the bottom line. So
I totally agree with that too, because it just makes it that much harder for them to be who they want to be, because I know I can't say this because my parents are not going to like me anymore. You know,
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, or I won't be accepted in the family or whatever. But we're not like that, thankfully. And we love Emma. We love you, Ripley. And just if you get a chance to look at the stuff that's going on tomorrow to celebrate this day, definitely check it out. If you have any questions for us, ask us in the comments.
Absolutely.
And our daughter's 25, so we've been. She came out when she was 22, so 3 years now. So it was new for us, but we're just hanging in there and doing the best we can, and just supporting her and loving her 1,000%, 1,000,000%. So thanks for listening to our story tonight.
Our rant.
Our rant story, and we will talk to you guys later. Bye.